Chapter 28. The sound came up so gradually, it took Wilks a while to realize he was hearing it, and what it was. He had taken over Fawkes' position outside the armory, and watched as the shadows lengthened across the compound. Moto went back to work with the others after Jones assured them that Falk was okay. Wilks couldn't seem to focus on much of anything except Billie. McQuaid was still monitoring the sensor readings, and Ripley had as much help as she needed. So Wilks leaned against the gate and waited for Billie to get back, and wondered if she ever would. McQuaid picked up a ship to the east, too big to be the landhopper that Billie had taken. It had set down not far from where they had dropped the Mother Queen. Apparently, there were pilots in this fanatic crowd, and none too smart. The Bogs weren't going to be separating the followers from the baby food for long once they started arriving in big numbers. Now he focused on the sound, kind of a high, keening wail, a faint whine. "Hurry, Ripley," he said into the comm. "They're coming." Billie screamed and jerked the trigger. The blackness broke and reformed around the bursts of gunfire, the sound deafening in the corridor as the bullets hit the wall. She fell to the floor and scrabbled backward on her elbows after catching a glimpse of tattered clothing. "Oh God, don't shoot! Stop!" A man's voice. "Please, I'm sane! I'm sane!" He sounded as terrified as she felt. Billie held still so that he wouldn't have a target and trained her carbine at the voice. She held her fire as the man babbled on. "Please, I have to find her! Don't kill me!" Her. The word sank in, and footsteps suddenly crashed through the hallway as he ran away from Billie, back towards the entry. "Wait!" she shouted. "Amy!" The footsteps stopped. He spoke again, pathetically eager. You've seen her. Please, where is she? Who are you?" Billie stood up. "Walk towards the exit," she said. "I've got my gun on you, so don't make any sudden moves." As she followed his footsteps down the corridor, the full impact of his words sank in. He knew Amy. An old white-haired man with a ragged beard stepped into the light filtering in through the broken door. Deep lines of fear and worry creased his brow. Billie moved up to meet him. "It's you," she said. "Your transmissions. Where is Amy?" His eyes widened. "You saw them. We had hoped that someone—" He broke off. Then, They took her 2 days ago. Mordecai was killed trying to stop them. The lunatics. She's gone. I don't even know if she's alive." Tears welled in his eyes. Billie felt sick. 2 days. Where did they take her? "There are underground tunnels throughout the complex," he said. "They have Amy with the others, part of their food or breeding stock. There's a nest at the east end." He spoke quickly, tried to say everything at once. "I've been trying to get in, but I can't. There were drone guards, and today they started running away, north, and I heard ships. I heard your ship." "Take me there," said Billie. If Amy was still alive, maybe she'd be in the nest, waiting to be implanted. Maybe most of the guards would be on their way to the Queen. True, there probably would be a few left behind to guard the eggs that were still unhatched. But maybe it wasn't over yet. Ripley had fucked up. They pulled the control board from the wall, and she worked over the dismantled pieces and stripped wires for hours, It had to go sequentially. A to B to C, and so on. Or the hidden bombs, some of them kilometers away, wouldn't all detonate. Rewire the wrong way, and the first explosion could knock the system apart. And that wouldn't do at all. It had been going fine. Tully and Moto had both finished their jobs, and she was almost finished, when she suddenly discovered that something was missing. She was halfway through the 7th switch before she realized that she had run out of board to work on, and she needed more. "No," she said. She checked and rechecked. The 3rd panel had been misdirected to the 5th. She would have to pull it loose and rewire it. It would take another 2 hours. How long before the first group of drones reached the compound? Maybe long after dark. Or maybe 5 minutes from now. She pulled the switch loose and started over. If she had to stay on Earth to finish it, she would. It didn't matter if she died, as long as the alien bitch and her children were destroyed along with her. Billie and the old man crept down the stairwell together, the walls lined thickly with alien secretions. The main nest was in the basement of a structure only 2 blocks from the ship. They had run in the dwindling light together through the empty streets, had stopped for him to tie a rag torch before stepping into the silent building. He held the torch high as they edged down the steps. The flame reflected off the dark, shiny substance and created a flickering illusion that the stairs themselves were alive. With each footfall, the structure moved and shifted. It seemed as if they were stepping on alien bodies, about to rise up. It got hotter as they moved towards the nest. They rounded the landing and started the next flight of stairs down. A half-open door webbed with cobby spittle stood at the bottom. A low moan, human, drifted up to greet them, followed by a chittering sigh. They stopped a few steps from the bottom. Sweat ran down Billie's spine. "I never got this far," whispered the old man. Billie kept her carbine trained on the door and willed her legs to move forward. The nest wouldn't be completely deserted. Of course, someone had to watch the eggs, but Ripley had figured that into the time delay. The door flung open and a drone leaped for them. Billie fired. The thing screamed, its teeth gnashing as its chest shattered. Acid hissed and bubbled, ate into the plasticrete. A second howling creature catapulted over the first. Billie's shots ripped open the long skull. Its jaw dropped open and kept dropping as it fell onto the stairs. More alien blood spattered. The old man cried out, and there was a third. It loomed in the doorway and hissed, kicked at the fallen sibling in front of it to get to them. Billie depressed the trigger. One of the bullets hit at an angle and sparked, a tiny fire in the gloom. The creature fell back, and Billie stumbled over the dead drone at her feet to get to the door, the old man behind her. "Don't step in the blood," she said. Billie lunged into the basement and fired. Alien cries blended with the explosions of the carbine. The noise pounded her ears. Dark figures darted towards her as she shot again and again. Her left calf was on fire, the pain deep and intense. The old man's light flickered on behind her, just in time for her to see a grinning drone clap a talon on her shoulder. Its inner set of teeth shot out of the gaping mouth, and she screamed, jammed her carbine into its gut. The shots blew its abdomen out behind it. The thing's claw ripped at her flesh, tore her coverall and some of her skin, but released her and fell away. Billie panted, whipped her carbine left to right. Nothing else came at her. Nothing moved. Her skin was blistered from the blast of close gunfire. Her ears rang. Acid had touched her leg, and she felt her blood run from the chemical burn. But she was still standing. The guards were all dead. They were in a small room. The torch chased shadows in the slimy den, a dozen or so eggs in the centre, most peeled open. Dim figures were strung to the walls in various stages of decay. A few looked alive, unconscious. Spidery dead larvae littered the floor, and the place reeked of rotten flesh. "Amy," said the old man. He stepped past Billie. She felt a scream rise up when she saw what he moved towards. A small figure roped to the wall, head down, short reddish hair. What had been a person moaned, lifted its face to the light. An emaciated young man, his skin cracked, one eye swollen closed. Drool ran down his bearded chin. He grinned at the old man, his puffy tongue hanging out. "I'm pregnant," he croaked, words slurred. Caked blood nestled in the corners of his mouth. "Where are they?" said Billie, her voice shrill. "Where's Amy?" The man's head lolled forward. Amy's father grabbed his hair and jerked his head back, held the torch close to the dying man's face. "Presents," he said. A bubble of pus in one nostril popped open. The liquid ran over his scabbed lips. "The chosen. Breeders flew away. Serve the mudder." The word came out, mudder. "Flew to oneness. Revelation. She waits." "No," Billie said. The ships that the old man had heard. He turned to her, awful realization on his tired face. "The Holy Land," rasped the fanatic. "She's lost," said the old man, his voice hitched. "Stand back," said Billie. She rammed a new magazine into her rifle and tossed the empty to the floor. "I know where they went." And they would go there. Arona's mountain, the Holy Land. But first things first. Billie pointed the carbine and pulled the trigger. The howls of the closing army were nearer, more distinct now. He knew it took thousands of the bugs to make that kind of noise. Wilks scanned the skies as the minutes stretched by. The compound bathed in reddish twilight. If Billie didn't return soon. The Kurtz could circle and wait for a while, but they only had so much fuel, and they couldn't stay put with that many aliens on their way. Thinking about it, Wilks realized that they had made a mistake. They should have wired the bombs first, parked the ship with the Queen somewhere else to draw the brood, then dropped her off after the things were ready. They hadn't thought it out right, hadn't expected the damned things to come so fast, for there to be so many of them from that direction. Shit. Shit, shit. "Done," Ripley said. Wilks took a deep breath and let it out slowly. He knew Ripley would wait until the last possible second to pull out, but that second seemed much closer suddenly, and it was almost dark. "Wilks, company, due west, now!" McQuaid shouted. Wilks pointed his rifle at the trees and yelled through the gate. "Ripley! Moto! Let's go!" An unseen alien screamed from nearby as Moto and then Ripley stumbled through the hole in the door. They dropped the tool cases and unslung their carbines. As a unit, the three of them moved towards the ship. The woods crashed and crunched with the sounds of movement, but there was still nothing to see. The first drone broke from the trees and ran into the compound, its long body hunched, arms extended. It was going to see the Queen, but they were between it and her. All three of them fired at once. The thing shrieked and hit the ground, nearly cut in two by the armor-piercing bullets. The forest suddenly erupted, spewed forth a handful of the drones at once. They loped for the threesome, howled as the rain of bullets found them. "Come on!" someone shouted behind them. It was Falk. He stood in the hatchway of the Kurtz, bandaged arm limp, rifle extended, with his good arm. "Go!" Ripley said. She stood her ground, continued to fire as more of the drones ran into view. Wilks and Moto ran the few meters to the ship as Ripley and Falk covered. Wilks spun in the open hatch and fired. Dozens more of the bugs came out of the trees, their insane bodies moving at great speed. "Ripley!" he yelled. She backed to the Kurtz without looking and nearly tripped on the deck. Wilks took out three more of the creatures as she turned and stumbled inside. Falk hit the button. The hatch slid up and in. Too slow. Wilks crouched down and fired as several of the bugs scrambled to get in. One of the drones grabbed at the barrel of his rifle just before the deck shut. He shot its glistening teeth through the back of its skull. Tiny, molten flecks peppered Wilks's cheeks. But they were all inside. A score of aliens pounded at the closed hatch, their cries muffled through the alloy. "McQuaid, Brewster, get us out of here!" Ripley yelled into her set. Wilks slammed a fist against the hatch. Billie was too late.